All right, hello everybody. Hope that hope you had a good day. I know this is a late live stream, but my day doesn't end until nighttime, and so therefore that's when I have to do it. But hopefully we get some people in here. Um, as you can probably tell from the headline, we're going to be talking about Project 2025, at least a part one of it, because a lot of people have been asking, what is Project 2025? I know I've had a lot of people that I've even tried to explain it to, but with a mandate is 992 pages, it's really kind of hard to break down 992 pages all at one time. So, what I would like to do is, for those who are interested, everyone needs to know. We're gonna read through Project 2025. Again, it's over 900 pages long, guys. So this is gonna be a long one. So this is gonna be a part one, and we're gonna try to do 1 hour at a time. And so, however much we can cover in 1 hour is what we're gonna give it. And so actually I'm gonna go ahead and set my timer now for 1 hour. And whether we get through 2 pages or 10, we are going to read through Project 2025, the mandate, and we will start where we left off, wherever that is. Um, so we're not gonna waste a bunch of time. Let's go ahead and get started. Hope some people come into the building. I would love to talk about this with some other people. But it's not looking good, guys. It's really not looking good. And if you have the ability to go out and make some changes happen, or even if you just have the ability to go out and tell someone else about the situation, I'm hoping that that's what happens, because from what I've read so far, this is about to get crazy, like a whole crazy thing. And it goes, in my opinion, it stands against what the democracy of America really is about. You know, a lot of times we do get in our ways, and we have our certain beliefs, and we try to impose those on others in a lot of situations, but that doesn't make it right. And some of these beliefs are just so far-fetched, and they're just so out there. So it's really not fair that we impose our beliefs on other people, even though no matter what side of the you know what side you're on, or even if you're in the middle, it's not right for us to do it. So when we have something like Project 2025, which is trying to make life harder for a lot of people, um, I think that's something that needs to be talked about. So I'm hoping that everybody's gonna tune in. Hopefully we can get a lot of people on the replays and see what we can get, because they're really trying to get crazy. So I'm gonna try to share my screen here so I can pull up the mandate itself, and we're just gonna start from the beginning of that and see where we get to. Luckily for me, uh, it's a little slow, so we should be able to get through it pretty nicely. So we're gonna start with the acknowledgments. I know that that's not chapter one, it's not page one, whatever the case may be. However, this is something, the acknowledgments, we need to cover this. And I say this because I've read it already, and I think it has some very important information. So let's just start there. So it says, this work, Mandate of Leadership 2025, the conservative promise. Now, not the conservative effort, not the conservative wishes, hopes, or dreams, but the conservative promise. It's a collective effort of hundreds of volunteers who have banded together in the spirit of advancing positive change for America. Hundreds of volunteers. Now, we all know that there's millions of people in this world, but so far, they have hundreds. I mean, and that could be it could be exaggerated, but I mean, in comparison to the amount of people in America, it's not that many, but it's enough to get it started. It says our work is by no means the comprehensive compendium of conservative policies, nor is it our group nor is our group the exclusive cadre of conservative thinkers, which means they're not even all on the same page. The ideas expressed in this volume, that means they're going to come out with more, are not necessarily shared by all. Of course, it's not. What unites us is the drive to make our country better. That is an opinionated statement. First and foremost, we thank the chapter authors and contributors who have so freely of their time, who have gave so freely of their time in service of their country. Hmm. We are particularly grateful to have the help of dedicated members of the Heritage Foundation's management and policy teams. Okay, so there we go, the Heritage Foundation. Executive Vice President Derek Morgan, Chief of Staff Wesley Cooper Smith, Associate Director of Project 2025 Spencer. I think his name is Cretan or Cretian. And Thomas A. Rowe, Institute of Economic Policy Studies. Director Paul Ray devoted a significant amount of time of their valuable time, a significant amount of their valuable time to reviewing and editing the lengthy manuscript and provided expert advice and insight. And this thing is lengthy, but we're going to get into it. We're going to make it through it eventually. The job of transforming the work of dozens of authors and hundreds of contributors. See, the American language is so tricky, guys. You got to really listen to what is being said. The job of transformation or transforming the work of dozens of authors, dozens, sounds like a lot, but when you think about how many million people there are in America, dozens, doesn't sound like much. And the hundreds of contributors into a cohesive manuscript fell upon Heritage's formidable team of editors led by Director of Research Editors Teresa Pennefather, Senior Editor William T. Poole, Marla Hess, Jessica Lowther, Karina Rollins, and Kathleen Scaturo. Without those tireless efforts, you would not be reading these words. Well, thank you for letting us know what it is that you're trying to do. That's only a handful of people right there, but you're wanting to use these things from the handful of people to govern millions in this country. That's crazy. The talented work of data graphics service manager John Fleming, manager of web development and print projects Simon, director of marketing Elizabeth Fender, senior graphic designer Grace DeSandro, and senior designer Melissa Bluey came together to bring the volume to life. We also want to thank the dedicated junior staff who provided immeasurable assistance, especially Jordan Embry, Sarah Calvis, and Jonathan Moy. Most important, we're grateful to the leadership, supporters, and donors of each of the Project 2025 Advisory Board members and organizations and those of the Heritage Foundation, without whom Project 2025 would be or not be possible. Thank you. And that was written by Paul Dance and Stephen Groves. See, already we're getting into it where we have a couple of people that are coming up with these things and they're literally trying to use it to govern millions of people. Just a little handful of people. As you can see, the Project 2025 Advisory Board, it goes as follows, and I'm not going to read through this, but if you just take a look at the people who are backing this, the Alabama Policy Institute, that does not surprise me at all. The Alliance Defending Freedom, American Compass, the American Conservative, American First Legal Foundation, American Accountability Foundation, American Center of Law and Justice. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's a page full, maybe two. What would we have on this next page? The Independent Women's Forum, There is no way in the world the independent women. Okay. Institute for American Worker, Institute for Energy Research, Institute for Women's Health. These are all people who are supposed to be on this board. These are not people, these are organizations. And who knows how many people are in each organization. I would love to look that up and see um, who, how many people are on these or a part of these organizations, and also what they supposedly stand for. And we want to know if they're actually falling in line with the Project 2025, or maybe they've been just a little bit bamboozled. Who knows? So it says the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. It's a note on Project 2025. Now we want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Period is the conservative movement's unified effort. It can't be that unified if you just said that everybody is not on board. How is it unified? Something to be unanimous, that means that everyone's on board, or at least the majority of them are. They only named a handful of people. So it's no way that it's actually unified. But the movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 20th, 2025. Welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now a part of it. Indeed, one set of eyes reading these passages, will be those of the 47th President of the United States, and we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. History teaches that the president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's opening days. To execute requires a well conceived, coordinated, unified plan and a trained and committed cadre of people to implement it. Well, in order for everyone to be unified, that means that you would have to have people in place who are all on board with the same thing, which means that ultimately you would be getting rid of everyone who's not on board. Stick a pin in that. In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally begin transitioning planning in the late spring of election year, or even after the party's nomination was secured. That is too late. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at a seemingly logarithmic rate every 4 years. For conservatives to have a fighting chance, get the wording is so crazy. For conservatives to have a fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government, the work must start now. So they're already implying that the federal government is corrupted and is in need of reformation. The entirety of this effort is to support the next conservative president, whoever he or she may be. Now they know they tried it with that one. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President elect Ronald Reagan an inaugural mandate for leadership. First of all, everyone knows about Reaganomics and how much that was a whole crap show, and how much crap. Oh gosh, I don't even want to get in it. But if you know, you know. Reaganomics was crap. This collective work by conservative thought leaders and former government hands, most of whom were not a part of Heritage, set out policy prescriptions, not prescriptions, agency by agency for the incoming president. The book literally put the conservative movement and Reagan on the same page, and the revolution that followed might have never been, save for the band of committed and volunteer activists. With this volume, we've gone back to the future and then some. First of all, for you to be handing out prescriptions will mean that somebody is sick. So you're already saying that the policies that have been placed or have been put in place are sick. You have to, again, listen to the words, listen to their wordage, listen to the terms that they're using. Guys, the American language, the English language right? It can be so tricky if you don't really pay attention to the wording. So I want you guys to pay attention to the wording. Okay. It's not 1980, it's 2023, and the game has changed. The long march of cultural Marxism through an institution has come to pass. The federal government is the uh, is a what behemoth weaponized against American citizens and conservative values. See, that's that tricky stuff. That's alarming. With freedom and liberty under siege as never before. Not with freedom. Okay. The task at hand is to reverse this tide and restore our republic to its original moorings is too great for any one conservative policy shop to spearhead. It requires the collective action of our movement. With the quickening approach of January 2025, we have 2 years and one chance to get it right. Oh my gosh. So now they're trying to say, create that urgency for hurry up and get on board. Just trust us. It's a handful of us and we know what we're talking about. And we know it's millions of you, but we know what's best for you because it is tainted and it is corrupt and it's sick. And we have the right prescription for you. Project 2025 is more than 50 and growing. Not 50. Go sit down. Of the nation's leading conservative organizations joining forces to prepare and seize the day. I'm not even going to pretend I know that word. The Exion, okay, that's one for the dictionary to look up, goes personnel in policy. Person, personal. No, it says personnel. Personnel in policy, and we need new generation of Americans to answer the call and come to serve. Let me go ahead and tell you about Gen X. Not all of them, but most of them. The millennials, that's where I fit in, and Gen Z. Let me tell you, we in most cases do not like to be told what to do. Yeah, you got those out there that don't mind, but a lot of us don't like to be told what to do. So, depending on what you seem to say or what you're trying to tell us to do in this mandate, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, some of us are going to rebel just because we can, and the other ones of us are going to actually read through this thing, and we are going to uh, be like, nah, if it don't sound good, I'm gonna just go ahead and let you know now. So for all the baby boomers that is trying to put all these things do and tell us what to do, we wasn't listening to y'all when we was in the house. I don't know why y'all think we're gonna listen to you now. Anyways, and we need the new generations of music to answer the call. Yeah, we're probably not gonna answer. You're going straight to voicemail. Okay. This book is functionally an invitation for you, the reader, Mr. Smith, Miss Smith, and Mrs. Smith, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and Miss Smith, to come to Washington to support those who can. Our goal is to assemble an army. See, that's that wordplay again. Assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. You want to deconstruct the administrative state. That word deconstruct, that's real. That's really important. Okay. The project is to build on 4 pillars. Now, pillar number 1, it says this volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed, and where disagreement exists, brackets out of these differences for the next president to choose a path. So they don't get to choose their own path. The president is 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 going to do that for them. He's going to think for them because they're undoubtedly not smart enough to do it on their own. Okay, but they want to govern the federal agencies, and if there's any disagreements, then the president gets the last say so on what he deems is right. Now that's pillar number 1. Now pillar number 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. So if you're not a part of the coalition, you don't get to voice your recommendation. Okay. These recommendations will be collated and shared with the president elect's team, greatly streaming the appointment process. Again, president gets to do what he wants, gets the last say so. That's daddy. All right, number three. Number three is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online education system taught by experts from our coalition. So out of those 50 groups, whatever, the 50 groups are just in support, but out of those handful of people, they're experts. And so they're going to teach us. It says, for the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. I don't know about anybody else, but we all had a civics class. We know exactly how the government functions for those of us who paid attention. And you're going to go back and tell us how, or explain to us how the government functions again? Or is it just the way it functions from your way of thinking? Because that doesn't sound like something I read in my civics book or my government book. For the experience, we will host in personnel seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected in senior leadership. I'm not even going to start in on that. For the experienced, for the old people who is in agreement with that. Got it. So, and not in no form or fashion am I saying anything about old people. If you're an old person and you are like, you know what, I'm rolling with it, or I'm rolling with the punches, or I'm willing to hear everything and make an educated guess or educated decision, then I'm all down. But if you are one of these people whose way of thinking is outdated and outdone, then honey, it's time to pass the torch and trust it. The same way you want us to trust you, you gotta be able to trust us too, because not everybody's out here doing the most. Now we got pillar number four. Here we go. Pillar number four is the playbook. We are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "So help me God." Again, back to the president. Here we go. So, from the sounds of it, between the president and his small little council that's following, they're going to be making all the decisions. You don't even have to think, just do what they say do. If as long as you do what he says do or that they say do, then it sounds like then that's exactly what they want to happen. Now, as Americans living in an approach of our nation's 250th birthday, that 250th birthday, that means we're coming up on another regime. We have been given much. As conservatives, we are much required to steward these precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to join in with us on project2025.org. That's also written by Paul Dance, who is the director of Project 2025. Now, you want to do this for so called the next generation. Most people are out of touch with the next generation by the time 10, 15 years go by. So, how in the world are baby boomers supposed to all of a sudden be in touch with not just the Gen Xers? They don't understand millennials at all. And Gen Z is way over their heads. So, how in the world are we supposed to just sit back and do what you said do when half of the things that were happening during your time when you were young don't even exist anymore? Now, here's the authors. I'm not going to go through that either. That's just a lot. But we got Darren Bass, Jonathan Berry, Lindsay M. Burke, David R. Burton. Look, I tell everybody, don't take my word for it. Go read it for yourself. You know, it's a free PDF. You can always download it. That's how we got it. So I would encourage everybody, if this is some information that you find really important, you want to know who each one of these people are and what it is they do, how long they've been doing it, definitely download the PDF. You can Google it, Project 25, and download the PDF for free. But these are the authors. Now it looks like we have about 4 to 5 authors per page, just depending on how much themselves. And so far, I think we're about at the fourth page and the fifth page, which I mean, they've already said it was just a handful of them from 50 different organizations. And we don't even know if the whole organization is following it or not. But we do know that there are certain people who have been appointed from each organization, and I'm gonna assume, I might be wrong, but I'm gonna assume that those followers are loyalists to the movement, and they're probably already taking the voices of other people who are part of those foundations, who either don't know what's going on or don't agree. The contributors. Now, these are the contributors. The contributors listed below generously volunteered their time, so you didn't even pay these people for this, an effort to assist the authors of the development and writing of these volumes, 30 chapters. All right, we got a long way ahead of us. All right, 30 chapters. Now, somebody got paid, but it wasn't these people. They're honorable mentions because they volunteered their time and assisted the authors, which probably means they wrote it for them, and the authors probably just were talking. Yeah, it's kind of like when a celebrity writes a book. In most cases, they really don't write the book; they just have interviews, and then someone else goes back and they write it and put it together, and then they stick their faces and their name on it, and their clout gets stuck to it, and then the book sells, even though they haven't even read it yet, or if they will even read it. The policy views and reform proposals herein are not an all-inclusive catalog of conservative ideas for the next president. Exactly, because they're not all agreeing with you. But you also said that this was unified. So how is that working? Once again, you're contradicting yourself. It says, nor is there any anonymity among the contributors of the organization with which they are affiliated with regard to recommendations. Here are the contributors. Here we go. We got page one. Most of these people are from the Heritage Foundation, from what I can see so far. On the second page, we got a couple other organizations as well, but most of them are from the Heritage Foundation. Maybe we should research who is the founder of the Heritage Organization and what it is that they stand for. Page three, we got some more people right here. Some of these people are just LLCs or from different LLCs, but for the most part, I'm seeing the Heritage Foundation and American Legal Foundation. Okay, so we got a couple pages of people. Now, I know this seems like a lot of people. I know it does. It really does. But guess what? If the majority of um, if the majority was on board, it'd be way more pages than this. I think we're about on page 6, 7, and we're done. All right. It took us almost 30 minutes to get through there. There's a foreword, A Promise to America by Kevin R. Roberts, Ph.D. 40 years ago, 44 years ago, I thought it was going to be like four score and 10, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Let's think about that. It's 2024. 40 years ago. Well, that was like 1980, right? Both had been betrayed by Washington. Not betrayed. By Washington establishment and were uncertain whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. Worse still, at the moment of acute vulnerability and division, we found ourselves besieged by existential adversaries, foreign and domestic. So basically, done y'all, whether they were from a foreign land or whether they were from here. The late 1970s were, by any measure of historic law, I'm sorry, a historic low point for America and the political coalition dedicated to preserving its unique legacy. Excuse me. Its unique legacy of human flourishing and freedom. Today, America and the conservative movement are enduring on an era of division and danger akin to the late 1970s. Now, as then, our political class has been discredited by wholesale dishonesty and corruption. Not cheap not cheap wholesale, not cheap dishonesty and corruption. See, once again, they're trying to paint out anybody, you know, that didn't believe what they believed as corrupt, dishonest. See, I pay attention to these types of words because a lot of times these are projections, not truths, but projections, or as their leader would say, fake news. Look at America under the ruling of cultural elite today. Inflation is ravaging family budgets. Drug overdose deaths continue to escalate, and children suffer from toxic normalization of transgenderism, with drag queens and pornography invading their school libraries. You know what? I know that the LGBTQIA, I know this for a fact. The LGBTQIA community is sitting over there like, now what did we have to do with it? How did I get in it? Over here trying to live my life, trying to live my life, and you know, stuck me in the middle of some bull. Overseas and totalitarian communist dictatorship in Beijing is engaged in a strategic, cultural, and economic Cold War against Americans' interests, values, and people. I know that Beijing is sitting over there like, now how did I get in it? How did I get in it? Once see this I'm gonna keep reading, but so far it sounds like deflection and projection. It says an economic cold war against America's interests, values, and people, all while globalist elites in Washington awaken only slowly to the growing threat. Moreover, low income communities are drowning in addiction and government dependence. Contemporary elites have even purposed the worst ingredients of 1970s radical chick to build the totalitarian cult known today as the Great Awakening. Not a cult. Yes, see, these people are they are miserable. And now as then, the Republican Party seems to have little understanding about what to do. Well, why is that? They've been there the whole time. Why don't they understand? I mean, there's been a couple Republicans in office. There's plenty of them in legislation in Congress. They always have been. So why don't they understand? Most alarming of all, the very moral foundations of our society are in peril. Yeah, no, we're not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Life has its challenges. It does. But to say that we're in peril as if we're all so miserable, we're looking for a savior, and y'all are basically the ones that are going to come in and save us. Yet students of history will note that, notwithstanding all those challenges, the late 70s proved to be the moment when political right unified itself. Yeah, I want to fact check that. And the country and led the United States to historical, political, economic, and global victories. Yeah, that needs to be fact checked. The Heritage Foundation is proud to have played a small but pivotal role in that story. Now, it was early 1979. Picture it, Sicily, 1979. I'm just playing. Amid stagflation, gas lines, and the Red Army's invasion of Afghanistan, the nadir of Jimmy Carter's days of malaise, that Heritage launched the Mandate for Leadership Project. First of all, y'all must be talking about that Heritage Foundation again, y'all. They're gonna be all through the book. I believe it. We brought together hundreds of conservative scholars and academics across the conservative movement. Together, this team created a 20-volume, 3,000-page governing handbook containing more than 2,000 conservative policies to reform the federal government and rescue the American people from Washington dysfunction. The fact that y'all think we need rescuing, interesting and also embarrassing if you think that we believe that. Now, I'm not gonna say that there's not people out there that feel like the government should come out here and rescue them, but as a majority, I don't think that that's the case. Because if that's the then we would have moved in that direction, but we didn't. We didn't because there's more progressive things going on. Okay. It is a promise from the conservative movement to the country, confident, specific, and clear. Mandate for Leadership was published in January 1981. That lets you know that it's already outdated already. The same month, Ronald Reagan, here we go with this Reaganomic man, was sworn into his presidency. Yeah, and it was full of crap. It was full of crap. Y'all, we're not gonna get to it. We're not gonna get too far because I'm going ahead and telling you right now they have already started with some straight bull. And yeah, I'm glad we're going through this page by page. This may take a little while, but we'll make it to the end. It may have 50 parts by the end of it, but we'll make it there. Now, by the end of that year, more than 60% of its recommendation had become policy. 60%. And that was 60% of some bull because that was what was going on at that time. A bunch of bull. Again, if you know about Reaganomics. If you don't, Google it. Trust me. Crazy. And Reagan was on his way of ending stagflation, reviving American confidence and in prosperity, and winning the Cold War. Yeah. Okay, if that's the way we want to describe it. The bad news today is that our political establishment and cultural elite have once again driven America toward decline. The good news is that we know the way out, even though the challenges today are not what they were in the 1970s. Exactly. So why we keep referring to something back from the 70s and the 80s when it is not what, in your own words, you said they're not the challenges today. But we're going to use policies from Reagan and we're going to apply it to today. And somehow that's supposed to work. Got it. Conservatives should be confident when they rescue our kids. Baby, the kids are fine. They may be bad, but they don't need rescuing. Most of them live at home with their parents, and they're okay. They want to reclaim their culture. Now, that is a joke within itself. What is the culture? Revive the economy. Okay. You're going to revive the economy. That means you're going to have to do some of those things that you put in, and give us some of those grants and opportunities that y'all put in place back in the day. If you want to revive that economy, how do you think a lot of your grandparents and things got houses and things? There were a lot of policies and grants and things that were put in place to go and buy those homes. We don't have those today. We don't have those today. Okay. See, that's the problem. They're at war with their own country. It's like civil war again. And then it says at home and abroad. So everybody's against them. So we already know this is about to be a whole victimization. We did it before and we'll do it again, as Ronald Reagan put it. Freedom is a fragile thing, and it's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. That's a scare tactic. Moving along. This is the duty history has put before us and the standard by which our generation of conservatives will be judged. And we should not want it any other way. Should we now? If it didn't, whatever. Moving along. The legacy of Mandate for Leadership entire Revolution is one is that of conservatives want to save the country because the country needs saving. Apparently, we need to bold. We need a bold and courageous plan. Apparently, you also need an army too. You said that on the other page. This book is the first step in that. First step in that plan. So, baby, this is just the beginning. And trust me, some of these policies are already being put in place. We see it all the time. And you've been watching it for the last couple of years, for sure, for sure. The Conservative Promise. This volume, The Conservative Promise, is the opening salvo of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, launched by the Heritage Foundation and Armenia in April 2022. You don't have that many partners. It's only 50 groups. That means that it's the Heritage Foundation and 49 other groups. That's still not a lot. There's a lot of groups. There's a lot of profits. There's not a lot of for profits in this country. Um, so y'all did this in 2022, April. Okay, it's 30 chapters lay out hundreds of clear and concrete policy recommendations for White House offices, cabinet departments, Congress, and agencies, commissions, and boards. Don't leave nobody out now. Just as important as the scope of the conservative promises recommendations is the breadth of its authorship. This book is the product of more than 400 scholars and policy experts from across the conservative movement. Hold on, here we go with the crazy numbers again. Now, you just had handful, that handful then turned to dozens, then it turned to 50 groups. Now it's more than 400 scholars. Y'all can't get right for nothing. Contributors include former elected officials, old, world renowned economists, and veterans from our four presidential administrations. Old, old, and old. That's what I just heard. This is a bunch of old folks that have come up with this. And even though we have different problems from the 1970s, and the challenges are different, we're still going to try to take these old policies from these old people who've been out here for a long periodically time. And I understand that's not a word. That was a joke. And we're going to place, and we're going to get everybody back to what it used to be. Note, you know what? It's not even a note. Um, think about this. If we liked where we were in the 70s, in the 80s, we'd still be there. We didn't like it, so we changed it. And you want us to go back, and you're projecting, and you're deflecting, and you're inflating, and that's why they didn't want us to read this. That's why they made it so long, in my opinion, because they knew that most people don't read chapter books, and they stuck 30 chapters in this one. So guess what? They're hoping you're not gonna read this one, but I'm telling you, everybody who tunes into this video, we're gonna read through it. It doesn't matter how long it is. I don't care if we're up to election day, we're gonna be reading it. I don't care if it's election day when we get to the last page, we're gonna read this. This is an agenda prepared by and for conservatives who will be ready on day one of the next administration to save our country from the brink of disaster. Oh, there goes the fear mongering. There goes the scare tactics. Gotta save the country. Once again, clearly people who don't think like this small group of conservatives. Um, Clearly, most of the country doesn't think like that. Again, we have done more progressive things, and you want to send us back to a place where a lot of us don't want to be. Send us back to a place where our grandparents didn't want to be, and our parents didn't want to be when they were there. And you're trying to send us back. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know. In most cases, the answer is gonna be no, unless they take out the time, or the lack thereof, actually, unless they don't take out the time to actually read, and they make this just their vote or cast their vote based on popularity and not actually have the knowledge. So it says the Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work. I believe it. But as our dozens of partners, oh, see, we back to the dozens. It went from dozens to over 400, and hundreds of authors will attest. Now, we went through those authors. Did y'all see 100 people? Did y'all see hundreds of people? I went through about 3 or 4 pages of authors, and I would say there's no more than 50 authors on each page. So I really wouldn't really give it that much. I don't want to scroll back up, but I'm just guessing. I'm just giving it a good educated guess. There's about 3 pages, maybe four, and they got hundreds of authors. They're gonna attest that this book is the work of an entire conservative movement. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forged, especially along four broad fronts that will decide America's future. All right. the Dusties, who are all 60 and above, decide America's future. And the crazy part is, most of them won't be alive in the next 20 years to even see the effects of it. But they're trying to leave their mark on the world, I guess. All right, so number one, they want to restore the family as a centerpiece of American life and protect our children. No one's attacking the children. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I understand what I'm saying when I say no one's attacking the children. No one's attacking the children as a whole. I understand there's special circumstances, extenuating situations, or extenuating circumstances, and so there are those more rare cases, but that is not the case for all of the American children. No one is trying to harm them in most cases. They're waking up, going to school, playing with their friends, and on social media like everybody else. No one's out for them. Then number two, they want to dismantle the administrative state. So they want to take everything that's already there and return self-governance to the American people. Now, how are you going to return self-governance to the American people when you just told me that the president and his loyalists are going to be the ones making all the decisions for us millions of people? Make up your mind. You trying to give it to the people, or you just trying to tell us that so that we feel good? There's no need. There's no need. Number three, defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. You know, this entire nation was founded by immigrants. This entire country was founded by immigrants. Yes, ask some of the people who had family members who were here before the Mayflower showed up. It wasn't even called North America; it's called something else. There were people here before anybody on the Mayflower showed up, and I'm pretty sure. Now, I can't. I wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure they was mad as all get out when the Mayflower showed up. But nonetheless, um, they were the global threat. Again, projection. It's the projection for me. And then number four, they want to secure our God-given individual rights to live freely. First of all, that's a contradiction within itself. Now, I'm not saying it's me, but there are people in this country who do not believe in God, and that's a part of their ability to live freely. That they don't have to believe who's not to. Again, that's not necessarily me, okay? But there are people who are atheists in this country who do not believe in God. So say you're going to secure your God-given individual rights to live freely, that's a contradiction within itself, because and it's also exclusive, because that's only exclusive to the people who believe in God the way that you do. Not necessarily just the people who believe in God, but they also have to believe in God the way that you believe in order to live freely. It's what our Constitution calls the blessing of liberty. It says, what makes these four pieces of the conservative promise so valuable to the next president is that they cut through superficial distractions and focus on the moral and foundational challenges America faces as this moment of history. I don't know why I kept saying monument. It says this was one of the secrets of conservative success in the Reagan era. Again, with the Reaganomics, I knew his name's going to pop up a lot. I feel it. One of our generation should emulate. Yeah, most of America would definitely disagree. Good grief. As in the late 1970s, Americans today experience the failures of political and cultural elites in countless ways. Here we go. We're projecting again. In the job market, in the grocery store checkout lines, on the streets, and in our schools, in the media, and within our institutions. But in truth, these daily dysfunctions are not innumerable problems, excuse me, but innumerable manifestations of a few core crises. In 1979, the threats that Soviet Union, the socialism of 1970s liberals, and the predatory deviancy of cultural elites. Reagan defeated those beasts. Oh, now they calling people names. He defeated those beasts by ignoring their tentacles and striking instead of their hearts. Striking instead at their hearts. They're beasts with tentacles. Basically, you call them octopus. His approach to the Cold War: we win, they lose. His economic agenda: the human dignity of work and its many rewards. Oh, I feel it coming. They about to try to put some people to work. Okay. His platform in the culture wars: the community of values embodied in these words: family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. Now, hold the phone. Where was the God given right so to live freely, but then you get down not even half a page or a whole page later, and you say that the community of values embodied in these words: family, work, neighborhood, peace, and freedom. First of all, families had already been jacked up by the time Reagan got there because we had already been through an annihilation of one particular group of people. We had also gone through the slavery of another particular group of people. Um, and there was a lot of kids that was had out of wedlock, and so therefore family was already messed up. Work. Let me tell you about that work thing. There's nothing wrong with working. There is nothing wrong with work, and every good thing requires a little bit of work. But what you constitute as work and what we as today human beings constitute as work, not the same. Neighborhood. As far as neighborhoods go, you segregated everybody and told everybody to go live with their own people and don't come over here where we at because, you know, um, we're pretty much gangsters over here. And if you come over here and you're in a place where you're not supposed to be at, we're either going to annihilate you or we're going to send you back um, nicely beaten with a message to tell the next person from your community or neighborhood behind over here. Peace, I don't know where that was at because you came over here with no peace and took all these people freedom. So if they say so. Okay. It says this book, the Project 2025 as a whole, will arm the next conservative president with the same kind of strategic clarity, but for a new age. I highly doubt it. You're trying to take us back to the 70s. And second of all, why does the president need to be armed with anything? Again, you said y'all needed an army. You don't need no army. How you gonna need an army, but yet you want restoring peace? That's crazy. Whatever. I cannot. You know what, guys? We are going to stop right there because we are literally almost right here at an hour. And instead of getting into this and knowing that we're not going to get past the first paragraph, we're going to wait for the next video for this. Because to be honest with you, they've already said a mouthful. Half of it contradicted itself, and the other half was lies and projection. Uh, 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 and it's already started off to a rocky start, if you ask me. Okay, I've heard a lot of things about Project 2025, most of which were not good. If not almost all of it, which was not that good. So I already have a way that I'm thinking about this because, like again, so far it hadn't sound too nice. It didn't sound too nice. Okay, and then after reading this introduction, and this forward and things, I can already tell that this is about to be a bunch of malarkey, as some would say, or a bunch of crap. It's going to be interwoven in all the words. And I'm just trying to figure out why 992 pages of someone trying to sound smart has been put together when most of this stuff does not need all of that extra fluff. But most of it is scare tactics. from the sounds of it. Most of it is fear mongering from the sounds of it. And I guess if you read it and you're a person that, deals with that type of trauma or anxiety and things of that nature, maybe it will get to you. But for those of us who are not necessarily going down that path or walking that path, hopefully we'll be able to see through it, and we're gonna make it through it and call them out on their crap. Um, so yeah, we're not gonna go to the next page. So what I'm gonna actually ask everybody to do, if you have listened to this and you made it to the end, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, we're gonna read it all the way through. I don't care if it's up to election day. We're gonna read it all the way through. So definitely stay tuned for that. I would definitely love if any people would like to join in on the discussion. Definitely start sharing this out because everyone needs to know what's incorporated in this. They want everybody to go to the polls and vote for the policies that they're trying to put in place. And they also call this a volume, which means they're going to come out with more than one. Okay, so definitely with the wordplay now. I don't know what my screen is doing right here. Oh, there we go. So yeah, we definitely want to tune in. Definitely share this out. Subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be talking about more educated things, and not. I mean, all the other stuff that people talk about. I mean, it's cool and everything, but this is something that's really about to that they're really trying to put in place to affect our daily lives, from the oldest to the youngest. And you just don't want to be in, outside of the know. You want to be in the know, and that's what we're going to try to make sure here. So we're going to go ahead and end this live stream on this one, and then we're going to return on tomorrow night. Hopefully, I'm on the West Coast, so it's going to be a little late for everybody, honestly. But around 9:30, 10 o'clock, hopefully we can go ahead and get started. If not, just stay tuned and be on the lookout for recording, um, hopefully commenting and giving their opinions on what it is that we're going through and what we've read, um, by the end of it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. And we will see you on the next go round, where we're going to be discussing part one, promise number one. That's going to be our next video. Okay. All right. And I will holler at you guys on the next video. Bye bye.